My name is Tommy Bennett. I'm a 15-year-old student at Pimlico State High School in the Global Education Program. I'm here at COP, part of CGE, Centre for Global Education, in the Decarbonised program. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Australian Federal Government and the DCCEE for letting young people have their voice heard today. Across every continent, young people are not just witnessing climate change, they are feeling it. From flooding in Australia to melting snow in Argentina, children are growing up in a world where the climate crisis is not a distant threat, but a lived emotional reality. This Global Child Climate Manifesto presents our demands to create a world that is no longer impacted by the devastation of climate change. Our diverse viewpoints and creative ideas have the power to motivate significant action if heard, especially in the areas of government policy, education, community engagement, and communication. This is our message to decision makers of all levels as the present and future of the planet. We demand change to secure our future.
Hi everyone, my name is Nada Ibrahim and I'm a 16-year-old student from Cairo, Egypt. Over the past few months, we've been collaborating on a virtual classroom with project-based modules aimed at developing our critical thinking skills and helping us develop an understanding of global climate issues. We also engaged in climate policies through art and science fairs. And throughout all of these months, this work has helped us develop community action projects that make meaningful impact on our city's specific climate challenges.
G'day guys, I'm Akira Miller. I'm a 16-year-old student from not far north Queensland, Australia. I'm just here to talk about the writing process for our Global Child Climate Manifesto. After months of online collaboration and learning, we met over the 48-hour Writers' Retreat weekends to write our annual Global Child Climate Manifesto. The first step in this paper was to gather data from our global student survey. We share this survey within our schools and collect children's ideas about environmental actions happening in their countries. At the time of writing our paper, we had over 4,000 responses from 46 countries, informing the main ideas we'll be presenting today.
Hi, my name is Montserrat Banegas. I'm from Costa Rica. I'm 17 years old. And an interesting fact about me is that my dad built a house out of 100% recycled materials. This Global Child Climate Manifesto presents our demands to create a world that is no longer being impacted by the devastation of climate change. Our collaborative proposal highlights our unique thoughts and solutions in combating the adverse effects of the changing environment. Our collective voices call for immediate action in 8 key areas: climate education as a universal right, mental health and emotional support, resources for outdoor learning, amplify Indigenous knowledge, nature learning to inspire action, child seats with voting power, funding for children's climate initiatives, and funding for teacher training. This is our message to decision makers of all levels. As the present and the future of the planet, we demand change now to secure our future.
Hello everyone, I'm Sahirda PDV, a 14-year-old from India. And a fun fact about me is that I created a world record on the theme of saying no to plastic at the age of 8 years. Despite being a 14-year-old, I'm here today because of a journey that began when I was just 7 years old. My mother and I suddenly developed breathing issues, and after consulting a pulmonologist, we were diagnosed with dust allergies. I soon discovered that many others in my city were suffered in the same way, and the cause was pollution. As I explored further, I realized pollution takes many forms, but plastic waste was one of the biggest threats. To spread awareness, I took up the challenge of successfully creating a world record campaign, Say No to Plastics, to inspire people to rethink their habits. When I joined my school's climate club in 6th grade, my understanding and commitment deepened, and I realized that carbon emissions and climate change were all interconnected. I led environmental initiatives from reducing biogas and reducing food wastage, promoting biogas, to lake cleaning and supporting community drives. These experiences taught me that it is not enough to act today. We must also educate and empower others to act for tomorrow. Through platforms like Ground Square, Model United Nations, and Decarbonize Missions, I strive to motivate peers and communities to adopt sustainable practices. But I realized we need global leaders to help us shape effective policies and bring real change to educate and empower more peers like me. Recently, as I prepared to attend the COP conference, I visited my pulmonologist. When he learned about my mission, he was inspired and expressed his wish to collaborate with me to launch more climate initiatives. That moment, it reaffirmed my belief that individual action can inspire systematic change, and COP is the right platform. If one student can inspire a doctor to act, imagine if every student could. That is why I urge you all to make climate education a mandatory part of schooling worldwide. Together, we can protect our planet not just for ourselves, but for every living being that shares this world with us. Therefore, my call to action is to empower us with education, and we will help transform the future. We call on governments, organizations, and leaders to make climate change and climate education a universal right. Climate education cannot be optional. It needs to be the foundation of learning worldwide so every student understands how our actions impact the world. Only 9% of students worldwide who participated in the 2025 Global Student Environmental Survey disagreed that their country requires more climate learning in K-12 schools. We dream of a classroom that is global, digital, and green, blending science, empathy, and innovation at every age. Projects, discussions, events, and climate learning need to be more than just science. It should be about learning how to make responsible choices and working with others for the common good. We must teach to students that they can make a difference and equip them with the necessary skills to do so. As my friend here, Akira, from the First Nations of Bichdara and Kuma people of Australia, shared, in my school, I learned that floods were in part worsened by climate change, which I must think must have been my first time seriously thinking about climate change as a problem that could affect me. In a rapidly changing world, students should have the right to understand factors affecting the environment and consequently to be empowered to take action. We call on governments, organizations, and leaders to embed mental health and emotional support into climate education and environmental learning. Eco-anxiety must be directly addressed by both schools and community leaders to create an environment where students can find hope and connect over shared concerns. To do so, schools must create spaces for group discussion and individual support. Emotional support for environmental learning could include workshops where students can express their feelings and ideas through art, discussion, and teamwork. In the 2025 Global Student Environmental Survey, 40% of the students agree that children is a significant part of who they are, emphasizing the need for emotional connection in environmental learning. As Paz, a 15-year-old from Colombia, says, schools can ensure better mental health for every student by making this club a safe space in every place in which they can express themselves without feeling pressured or judged by people that they don't care or don't understand that some other people. Climate change is important. Emotional learning is integrated into environmental education, ensures that every child grows not only with knowledge, but with the courage and compassion to protect our planet. If students are given a space to understand, feel, and act together, climate education becomes a source of healing and power, not just a source of information.
Thank you, Saruda, for the powerful speech. As for me, in the 7th grade, I was enrolled in a green program class, which was my first encounter with climate education. I vividly remember the exact day we learned about soilless agriculture, a concept that to me seemed impossible and magical at the same time, like nature defying its own rules. A door opened that day. For the first time, I felt the spark of curiosity that happens when nature, science, and art collide. And as I got older, I realized that not everybody gets moments like that. And not everybody has the type of education that makes them look at the world differently. I started to understand how lucky I was to have a teacher, a classroom, or even a garden where me and my peers were allowed to go outside and explore and experience for ourselves. That realization changed me. And I started pursuing my climate education not just as for personal interest, but as a responsibility. I learned that real understanding doesn't happen only through textbooks, it comes from experience and actually being in nature. That's why I believe so deeply in the importance of outdoor learning spaces and making nature a teacher. They aren't just educational tools, they can be transformative moments waiting to happen. And I know this because one transformed me. We as a collective call on governments, organizations, and leaders to ensure all children, specifically in high impact regions, receive resources for outdoor learning. Equitable access to environmental education is key to building resilient communities. Without the contributions of governments and private organizations, access remains dependent on geography and private and school funding. In this case, the most vulnerable children are left behind, missing opportunities to develop skills and awareness needed to overcome environmental challenges. As Saruda, over here, a 14-year-old student from India, explains, these opportunities help me see both the scientific and real-life aspects of environmental issues, though some subjects rarely address these topics directly. Our survey states that 66% of students miss class due to uncontrollable weather events, amounting to 18,184 school days, or over 50 years of lost learning. We urge all countries' governments and leaders to collaborate to ensure that every child has equal opportunities for outdoor learning, regardless of their location or circumstances. Adding on to this, we also call on governments, organizations, and leaders to include hands-on, nature-based learning that fosters action in core education policy. When student work goes beyond writing notes, new skills are practiced, allowing for the discovery of important topics and the creation of change in communities. Teachers must empower students to stand up for themselves and the environment, guiding them to create change. With resources like environmental training and mentorship and school-based climate projects, young people shift from awareness to action. As Lena, a 17-year-old from Canada, recounts, by stepping outside of the rigid school structure and the regular school curriculum and getting educated on a more personal, holistic level, my classmates and I were able to learn about the world around us and become change makers on both a local and global scale. Education connects the head, heart, and hands, fostering action and awareness. It empowers children to care for nature, understand the issues facing it, and actually resolve them. Project-based learning and hands-on experiences are remembered for a lifetime. That is why we must prioritize inclusive, action-based environmental education so that every child learns not only about the planet, but with it and for it.
The Earth is a beautiful planet with billions of unique flora and fauna and millions of unique regions. It's not a manicured lawn, which means using a blanket approach towards land management can be ineffective or often have unintended negative consequences. Sorry. Local knowledge and indigenous land management practices, we feel, is an overlooked solution in many countries. Throughout my life, I've been fortunate to learn from Indigenous custodians and rangers who care for country. I myself am an Indigenous student, the Bidjara and Kuma people from southern Queensland, and my dad used to work as a ranger as well. As an Indigenous student, I've been able to have the opportunity to participate in programs which connect Indigenous youth with Indigenous mentors and teachers. Recently, while on a cultural hike around Canberra, Ngunnawal country, a ranger pointed out to us dead trees which had been killed inadvertently during a prescribed burn. Prescribed burning is a widely used land management method of reducing the risk of bushfires or wildfires. Prescribed burning isn't just used in Australia, but it's also used in countries like Canada, Portugal, and the US as well. Many Indigenous nations in Australia and North America have been practicing their own prescribed burning for millennia. Indigenous or cultural prescribed burning is carefully timed, managed, and conducted at lower temperatures to ensure no damage to tree canopies or soil. Indigenous cultural or cool burns are already being implemented in parts of Australia. There is a need for Indigenous knowledge like cool burns to be amplified and shared, not just to Indigenous youth like myself, but through wider school education. Their knowledge, I believe, will be invaluable for the fight against climate change. We call on governments, organizations, and teachers to protect and amplify Indigenous and local environmental knowledge. Integrating Indigenous knowledge into school programs grounds climate education into a real experience. This approach deepens students' understanding of the environment by connecting scientific concepts with lived experience, tradition, and cultural perspectives. It inspires students to act responsibly and become environmental stewards for their communities. As Ebube, a 15-year-old from Nigeria, describes, when a child is born in my village, they use the umbilical cord of the baby to plant a tree. Unknown to them, the planting of this tree helps in mitigating climate change. Although this tradition is fading, the impact is still being felt. This example reflects a broader trend. When asked in the global survey whether their country should collaborate with Indigenous groups, 51% of respondents agreed. These results demonstrate the need for inclusive, experiential learning partnerships that cultivate a commitment to sustainability. We call on governments, organizations, and leaders to recognize young people as community activators by formalizing children's seats within local and global governance. Child leadership should be seen as a valuable contribution as we represent a huge portion of society. Governments and schools must include children in campaigns and real decision-making spaces, providing opportunities to share opinions, ideas, and perspectives. In the global survey, only 15% of respondents didn't agree that countries must work with children and young people on climate decisions. Yet, only 3% of NDCs globally mention including children in their development, and fewer than half are child-sensitive. Children should have a real voice in shaping climate policies, influencing budgets and decisions made at all levels. As Renata, a 14-year-old from Peru, voiced, acting for change means not waiting for others to solve problems, but realizing we can all make a difference. Children are motivated to take action, but we need platforms to do so. We need a space that is the result of genuine partnership, where children's perspectives are heard and respected. When supported, our actions can scale up and create ripple effects across communities.
I grew up in a small town in Costa Rica, surrounded by rivers, mountains, and endless green. Nature has always been part of my everyday life. I could see, feel, and breathe it. But even though climate education was a present thing in my life, it never felt like it truly reached us. It felt more like a topic in a textbook than a call to action. Everything changed when I was 15 years old, and I moved all by myself to study in the Humanistic High School of Costa Rica. In there, climate education became something real, and teachers were truly engaged in our students' initiatives. There, climate education felt like something that connected knowledge with purpose, and for the first time, I felt like my actions had a great impact in the environment and the power that I had in my voice. For every children like me to understand the power they have in their hands, we call on governments, organizations, and leaders to establish national and international funding for children's climate initiatives. Without funding policies being put into practice, young people from all around the world, especially from rural and low-income schools, lack opportunities to participate in project developing, in hand-on activities, and learning from Indigenous elders. In our survey, 1,167 children said that there needs to be more of a focus in planning child action projects. As a result, governments and international environmental decision-maker bodies should allocate budgets to provide resources and mentorship for student-led projects. As Cyril, a 17-year-old from the Philippines, said, "It would be better if we taught the youth about this problem and let them take whatever action they can take to help the fight against climate change." Children can make a difference, but only when given the proper resources. We urge governments to establish lasting support systems that empower children to fight against climate change, save the planet, and make a difference. We also call upon governments, organizations, and leaders to establish funding for teacher training and international partnership. Teacher training is a crucial aspect in children's learning, as teachers serve as mentors who help students navigate the impacts of climate change. They should be supported with training seasons based on common global standards of climate change. In our survey, 34% of children chose education and teachers as their top 3 priorities, illustrating the common belief in the importance of education and the key role that teachers play in our learning. As Bautista, a 13-year-old from Argentina, claims, "The most important resource is training and awareness so that students can learn and get involved." Policy-making bodies must support every school in integrating programs by establishing international partnership, allowing professionals and learners to connect and exchange practical information and strategies. Today's society is capable of solving the climate crisis with the right guidance and support, but that's only possible when teachers themselves are supported.
Wow, thank you, Monty. That concludes our presentation. Again, thank you to the Australian Pavilion for allowing us to host this presentation. I'd now like to open the floor for any questions.
What do you guys plan to do after you go back to your own countries to continue the momentum of climate action after COP?
So the question was, what do you guys plan to do after you get home from COP in your own country?
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Thank you so much for this amazing question. As for me, to continue the momentum of my own country, I will try to greenify all of the spaces that I'm involved in. Just even if it's a small step, everything adds up. And especially since coming here, I've adopted so many and learned from so many of my peers, amazing peers' experiences and own projects that they've already been doing in their own countries. And I feel like this has been a really great learning opportunity for me. And so I will try by, first of all, tackling my school, greenifying my school in any way I can, such as making boxes to recycle materials, such as an idea that came from you specifically, where students would make a box to put paper that's already written on, so anyone who needs a piece of paper could write on the other side. And I think that's a genius idea, and I feel like it's these kind of ideas that start out small but make a big difference overall in a big community such as my school. And so I thank you for that idea, and I will be taking it back to Egypt. Thanks.
So my school has a great global education program, and next year I'll be taking it. And every year the class runs a program where we go and collaborate with a school in the Pacific region, specifically on developing a project that will help them with any issues that they're facing. For example, this year it was Fiji, and last year was Vanuatu. In Vanuatu, our students went over and worked with Espirito High School, which where they concluded that what that school needed the most was a fresh water tank. And our school facilitates the space for that discussion and the funding, and it's really great because our program originally started as a local community, but once we've graduated into making a change in our wider global space, and I think coming to COP30, I think I've graduated into that space as well, and I'm very excited to take part in that program next year.
Thank you for the question. I would say that I would take back ideas like Nara mentioned from all of our friends here, like friends from Argentina and Costa Rica have shared many ideas like jelly bags, etc. I would take these ideas back to my country and start working them in a smaller space like my school and in our clubs. And then, I would like to, spread that to the city and how we could, take it to the next level, like one step each time. And yeah, that's what I have.
Well, as for me, some of my classmates and I are developing this producing of biodegradable plastic bags in our school, our own biopolymer. So my goal after COP is to take all of this as a growth in me. Take all of these incredible ideas that my friends shared with me and the global perspective that we are not the only ones that are being impacted by climate change to my country, to my school, so we can grow our project and develop it so it can reach more communities and even implement some of their ideas too, because they are really creative and incredible kids. And yeah, that's kind of for me.
Any more questions from the audience?
Ok, voy a hacer una pregunta, pero creo que Rocío me va a apoyar para trasladar la información. ¿Qué fue lo que les motivó a ustedes a participar en el programa de CGE?
Basically, what motivated us to participate in the CGE program in Decarbonize? Well, I can start by answering that question. Te la puedo responder en español si gustas. Básicamente, he visto el impacto que tiene el cambio climático en mi comunidad. Nosotros éramos un pueblo que producía arroz hasta el punto en donde las condiciones climáticas no eran aptas para nosotros seguir produciendo. Entonces la empresa de nuestro pueblo cayó en quiebra. Bueno, por política y por condiciones climáticas, también porque las leyes no nos ayudaban mucho. Sin embargo, bueno, he visto cómo las familias se iban de nuestro pueblo a buscar trabajo a otros lugares y como mi propia familia se fragmentaba. Entonces, todo eso llegó a la conclusión de que era gracias al impacto que tiene el cambio climático en mi comunidad. Y creció un sentimiento dentro de mí de que yo quería hacer algo para combatir este desafío. Entonces, empecé por entrar al club de ambiente y liderazgo de mi escuela, de mi colegio, y ahí fue donde yo encontré a Decarbonize, que fue como el siguiente paso para yo en realidad involucrarme en lo que es un gran impacto en mi comunidad. Y empezamos a desarrollar proyectos como el de las jelly bags, que es plástico biodegradable, que nosotros mismos hicimos con materiales que puedes encontrar en cualquier lugar. Entonces, ese tipo de proyectos nos han llevado aquí a compartir nuestro manifiesto, a demandar todo eso que nosotros queremos que los gobiernos hagan para nosotros poder hacer parte del cambio.
So like I mentioned before in my climate story, what motivated me was when I got to know about the problems that people in my country have faced. And that is when, I started my journey when I was 7, but when I officially started with Decarbonize was when I joined my school's climate club. That's when I started participating in initiatives, and then I started leading them. And when I got to know about the UN SDGs, I started a club about it, where we take up projects relating to the 17 SDGs that are there. And yeah, like what motivated me to keep continuing them was when everybody started to know about the impacts of climate change and how they started to get involved in more of our projects after getting to know more about it. Yeah.
For me, I'd say it's just my really great school community and the really great class that I have that pushes us to put our hands up for opportunities like these. And for me personally, it's I've always had a bit of an interest in like working in international relations or international policy making. Once I graduate school, and you know, this was my first time in Brazil, and like at a event like this at this scale, and it's just been such a valuable experience for me, and like I've taken away so much, and I can't wait to continue to do so for the next couple of more days I'm here.
As for me, I've had fortunately, I'm fortunate enough to have had a green program class in my class and in my school, and have thus been involved in climate initiatives and have had really good climate education compared to lots of other people in my country, which I'm very grateful for. But what sparked my kind of passion to pursue it more was the hosting of COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. And I remember begging my teacher to let me go because it seemed like this really cool event and an amazing opportunity for me to kind of chase that passion and see where that road would take me later on in the future. And since then, I have been relentlessly preparing. I've been getting more educated. I've been focusing more in class. I've been taking all the opportunities I can to help me become more educated about the environment and you know, just taking every opportunity that comes my way to help develop my connection with the environment. And so when I heard about Decarbonize and the chance to go to COP30 in Balam, I was thrilled. And I was absolutely willing to do anything to make it happen. And I'm very glad to be sitting in the stage in front of you guys right now. And it still is a surreal experience that I'm very grateful for.
Any more questions from the audience?
I'm sorry I came late, but I'm very inspired by this generation. What do you guys think it will take to be listened to by the rest of the big decision makers that are here, given that you should be the decision makers because you're going to have to deal with more problems long after we're all gone?
I'd say for our voices to be heard, I'd say we just have to continue to like grow maybe this program's reach, or just continue to like put our hands up for every opportunity we have and keep continuing to make our voices heard. But more specifically, I'd say it's important for us to take initiative rather than just like saying, oh, please give us a voice. We have to take that initiative to personally participate in those programs as well. Like, for example, maybe join your local youth council maybe, and you know, work towards getting into a role and then maybe making it a permanent or more powerful role from there.
Um, I would say what it takes like for us to be part of the decision making is basically to keep working and keep demonstrating that we are capable of being in the positions of decision makers, and also for decision makers to understand that they cannot be putting climate policies without like excluding the people that are gonna live the most with the consequences of today's actions. So it's not an us, it's a we. So we need to work together.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I would say I have two parts for it, one for us children and one for the adults. For the children, I would say that everybody should be, open to learn more about what's happening around us, because we will be the ones who are going to be experiencing it. So I feel like we should be knowing about what's going to be happening and what is happening. And for adults, I would say that all of you should be ready to listen to us and not just like say, oh, you guys are kids, what do you think, what would you guys know about this? But I feel like all of us here are capable to be part of the decision making, like she just mentioned. And yeah, that's what I would like to say.
I wholeheartedly agree with what Saruda said, and I would just like to add a point onto what you were saying, which is that it's really important to adopt an open mindset, especially in all sorts of education. And every step that you take, you need to have an open mind to actually be listening to the other side and actually be taking facts into account when you're negotiating, so that you can come to proper conclusions and sort of pursue your education in the best way you possibly can. And be willing to listen to all sides and actually properly reflect on your own work and what the others' initiatives as well.
Wow, some great answers in there. For the final question I have for the panelists is, what is one piece of advice you would give for other children that want to take action?
Okay, a little and short piece of advice I would say to young people who want to start to fight against climate change is to not be afraid to start small. Every big accomplishment always started with a small idea and one person that could not be still and just wanted to take another step. So yeah, that would be my advice, to do not be afraid to start small. And if you're not supported at first, if you are capable, you're gonna get there.
Another really important point, adding on to what Monsi has said, is that in a adult dominated space, it's really, really, really easy to get overwhelmed and feel put down, or not get the support you feel like you need, or feel like you're not doing enough. But the truth is, you have started this initiative and you have the drive to keep pushing and improving from yourself, and you still have the time. What matters is that you commit yourself to the cause and continue to educate yourself and continue to put yourself out there. And with time and enough drive and consistency, you will achieve what you want to do, and you will achieve what you want to become because you put the effort in. And so do not be discouraged by all these big words or big meetings that the space is surrounded with, because what you are doing is part of the cause as well.
The advice that I have for everybody is that just do it. Like, be ready and open to put yourself out there, because when I came to the Blue Zone, I saw so many opportunities and new people and climate activists who are like so experienced in this field, like who started from something so small and got here to the Blue Zone of COP. And talking to them and learning from them has been a really great platform for me to expand my knowledge and my part in this field and domain. And so yeah, so be ready to put yourself out there, because you never know what unknown opportunities that you have to represent your country, because every single person over here is representing our country. Like, I'm from India, she's from Egypt, Costa Rica, Australia, etc. So be ready to be there and represent yourself and be there. Yeah.
I think that'll conclude our presentation. Would love if some of the adults would stick around. We have some small gifts. Hang on. Oh, that's not it. We have
Ooh,
some small
so
gifts
cool.
with pins on them, little whales. Yeah, and we would love if the adults would stick around and maybe talk to some of the kids and share their ideas and stories. Thank you.